Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and again a wonderful Munich. Finally, it's getting summer here in Germany, in Munich, out of the studios of Commodity TV. And today we have here Allana Potash. Well, I must say it's the largest potash project in Africa. Very interesting project, and we are very happy that we can present this company to you. And we will talk now to Farhad Abasov. He's the president and CEO of the company. Farhad, pleasure to have you here. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Jochen. It's a pleasure to be here.
As I said, you are doing potash and you are doing it in Africa. So please tell us where you do it in Africa and give us a little overview about Allana Potash.
Thank you, Jochen. The project is in Ethiopia. It's northeastern part of Ethiopia. And Allana Potash started working in this part of Ethiopia about 4 years ago. We've done a lot of exploration and development work earlier this year. We've actually completed our feasibility study. And the feasibility study shows that this is one of the most robust projects in the world, with one of the lowest capex requirements, with a very high IRR after tax of about 33%. And most importantly, there's a huge support coming for this project from a financial community as well as from the government of Ethiopia.
So, question: how did you come on Ethiopia? Obviously, potash is needed absolutely. And if we look at the map of Africa, or let's say at the world map, it's still, I would say, something like with a white cover with potash. So, how did you come in Ethiopia, and what are your goals you want to achieve then there?
Well, Ethiopian potash, this basin, has been known for the last several decades now. The first work was done by the Italians in the 1930s and 40s, and then in the 50s and 60s, an American company called Parsons did quite a bit of drilling. So we went through all this historical data and saw a tremendous opportunity to bring this historic basin into production in the next few years. So that's how we started with this. And Ethiopian government has opened up a lot of sectors in the economy, inviting a lot of foreign direct investors. And we became one of the first companies in the mining sector to come and start exploration of this project. Our plan is to take this project, take this basin, and turn it into one of the largest industrial projects in Ethiopia in the next few years.
Is anybody doing mining in Ethiopia by now? Because I think it's not that famous for mining.
You're right. It's what we call an emerging mining jurisdiction.
Okay.
They've started really changing things around and really reforming their mining laws in the last several years. And
they have established mining laws already?
Yes, they do.
So you work on safe ground? Exactly.
It's a very, very clearly defined framework for mining companies. And in the last several years, Ethiopia has seen a tremendous growth in the mining sector. If a few years ago there were only a handful of mining companies operating in the country, now we have over 150 companies, which is a tremendous growth if you look at it in the last 5-6 years. Most importantly, answering your question about the operators, yes, there's a big gold operator in Ethiopia. They've been there for quite a few years. It's a joint venture with a foreign company and the Ethiopian government, and they've been operating very successfully. So that's a very good example of how the Ethiopian government treats miners in the country.
How about taxes, royalties?
Well, that's a good question. The framework that they've established in the last few years is a very well-defined, very clear-cut as to how it's going to work. The government is doing everything to encourage new companies to get to production. And they're really investing on the infrastructure side. They're really helping you with paperwork, with all the customs, etc. They're really motivating you and pushing you towards production. And once you're in production, there's a very clear-cut, again, very well-defined way of participating in the project on the part of the government. There's one way, which is through a royalty system, and then they participate in the net profit once the company becomes profitable. And they also have, of course, corporate taxes. But what is interesting about Ethiopia is that many mining companies, and especially a company like ours, which is also a fertilizer company, will have a tax holiday for quite a few years.
How many years?
We're talking about 6 years. 6 years. And that is critical, especially at the initial stage of your production.
Oh, nice. Coming to your project, let's go a bit more in detail there. You have already resource reserve is established. How large is it? What can an investor expect from your project?
Jochen, it is a very large project. When we started there, we had only 107 million tons of inferred resource on about 5 or 7% of the property. So our hope there was that we would achieve about 500 to 600 million tons in total, but the exploration program has been so successful that has exceeded our expectations, and we have
by how what?
We got over 2 billion tons of potash.
So 4 times more than you expected.
Exactly.
Wow.
At an average grade of about 20%.
Yes.
And most of it, about 1.3 billion tons, is actually measured and indicated category. In other words, higher confidence.
Higher, yeah.
And also the rest of it, about 600 million or more tons, is in inferred category. What is interesting about this project, Johan, is also it's a very unique geology where we have 4 potash-bearing beds. Sylvinite, which is a high-grade potash, it's on top. Then we have upper carnotite, lower carnotite, and kainite. And kainite has sulfate in it, which means that we can produce sulfate of potash directly from this bed called kainite. So Allana stands in a very unique position where we can produce MOP, a muriate of potash, from sylvinite and carnotite.
Which is a standardized product.
Exactly. And then we can produce a higher-end product called SOP from kainite.
So before we come to infrastructure and all that stuff, because you have to transport, obviously, your stuff, we talk about a lot of, you want to produce 1 million tons, I think, per annum. So that's a lot of product you have to transport. So that's also an issue. But before we come to that, give us some key data of your feasibility study, because you finished that in, I think it was February this year. So you found out that it is very economical. And please give us some hard facts about it.
Yeah, Johan, the interesting thing about it is that, as I said, we have sylvinite, carnotite, and kainite. We decided that we're going to focus on sylvinite to start with for 2 reasons. First of all, it's the shallowest member. Secondly, it's the highest grade. But also, the solution mining of sylvinite is a well-proven technology, well-proven process. So we decided to remove all kinds of technical risks and focus just on sylvinite to start with. So we will produce 1 million tons of MOP, as you mentioned earlier, which is a standard product, from sylvinite member, and we will use solution mining technology in conjunction with solar evaporation ponds, because the weather there is very hot and dry, so we can't use it.
It's also a standard technology. It's nothing new, fancy.
Absolutely. It's a proven process. Many different countries where the climate is favorable, they can they can use it. So what we're doing here is we decided, okay, very standard process, 1 million tons of MOP, solution mining, and solar evaporation ponds. Our feasibility results were really astounding. Our IRR after tax is 33%.
Wow.
Very healthy.
That's a
IRR.
lot.
And we use only $430 per ton potash price.
What is that, an average of 10 years, or what is that?
The mine life is over 25 years.
No, I mean the average price.
That's correct. That is basically what we use as average.
So it's a conservative assumption.
It's a very conservative. Most in our sector, in their pre-feasibility or feasibility studies, they use $450 to $475 per ton or more. So we decided to use a very conservative. Even with that conservative number, we have a very robust project. Our total capex came to about $642 million, which is a fraction.
It's not that much, even for potash.
Absolutely. It's a fraction of what you would have in almost any other part of the world, which is an incredible achievement in itself. And that is due to the lower cost structure and the geology and climate of this area.
So climate is one of the keywords. You said it's very hot. I think Ethiopia could get like 50, 60 degrees in the summer. So I think it's challenging to work there. But as you said, you're doing solution mining. Solution comes to me that you need water.
Yes, absolutely.
And you need infrastructure. So please elaborate on that. How do you solve the water issue? How do you solve power? How have you solved transportation of the stuff? Obviously, you want to export maybe to Asia and India. So please elaborate on that also.
Oh, it's a very interesting point. You're absolutely right. You definitely need water for solution mining. But before we go into water situation, on the climate, in this part of Ethiopia, we have very hot climate. It's about 40 degrees Celsius year-round. And we also have very dry climate, dry weather. So that means we can use solar evaporation ponds. The evaporation rates are one of the most...
Just because it's hot.
Exactly.
And you have it outside in the nature.
You just put it outside. Let the nature do its work. You don't have to worry about it.
No energy is needed, nothing.
Very little energy. You don't need any energy for solar evaporation at all. And that's a major advantage as well, and that's another factor that keeps our cost low. But coming back to your question on water, what we did as part of feasibility study, we engaged a company from your native Germany to do a full hydrogeological regime study. So they did a fantastic job. They did a resistivity survey, followed by a full drilling program, and they drilled about 22 wells. All of these wells hit water, And most importantly, they did the recharge and pumping test to determine the recharge rate in these alluvial fans. Altogether, they have defined 160 million cubic meters of water in these reservoirs and alluvial fans. And the
which are sitting there.
They're sitting there right now, yes.
So you can use them.
Exactly, exactly. And 35 to 55 million cubic meters of water in the recharge. And all we need for 1 million tons a year is about 18.5 million cubic meters of water. So we have plenty of water to sustain not only 1 million, potentially 2 to 3 million tons of operation. Now, infrastructure, first of all, I want to thank the Ethiopian government and take this opportunity to thank them for them, because they have built 2 roads to our project, one coming from west, the other one is actually linking us to the south, to the port of Djibouti, at their own cost. These are fully paved roads that will actually allow us to both bring our supplies as well as export our potash. And it's important that we did not spend money on it, because otherwise that would have put a lot of financial burden on the company. So that's a critical help that the Ethiopian government brought to us. But also on top of it, we became the only company in the potash sector, in the junior potash sector, to strike a special MOU with the government of Djibouti on the port. So we have access to our own potash terminal in the port of Tajura in Djibouti. It's a great achievement.
So you have to control.
Absolutely, absolutely. And coming back to your question on power, there are various ways of course, generating power. We need about 20 megawatts of power for our processing plant and operations on site. And we will start with diesel generators or fuel oil generators first, but eventually we'll link to the power grid.
So one of the most important questions beside the power, 642 million, let's make it 700, whatever, we know all the mining could be an adventure. How do you finance it? Have you structured already something? I think you have BNP Paribas as a financial advisor.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you say anything about, or is it too early? Are you allowed to say something about that?
Yeah, we've done quite a bit of work, Jochen. I mean, what we did, first of all, initially, even before we came to the completion of feasibility study, we brought in 2 large strategic investors into the company. We became the first potash company to get investment from International Finance Corporation, which is
that's World Bank, I think.
Exactly, it's a part of World Bank. And IFC is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, development financing institution in the world. I think in 2010 they invested $18 billion in private enterprises in developing world.
That's a lot.
And they're a long-term investor who also understands the need for projects like this for the country. And that is their mandate, to really help with social and economic development. But in addition to IFC, we also brought a large partner from a private sector, and that is Liberty Metals and Mines. It's a private equity fund, part of Liberty Mutual Insurance Group out of the United States, and they own a big chunk of the company. Both of these organizations have committed to helping us with financing at the construction stage. And as you mentioned, we've engaged BNP Paribas as our financial advisor on the debt side, and BNP has targeted large, development financing institutions and export corporations, or Exim banks, I should say, of various countries, mostly European countries, United States, and of course Canada. And we have received letters of interest from basically everyone we've gone to, and with a very large amount of money that basically will assure that we will get at least 60 to 65% of our capex requirements through project financing and through debt.
Through debt, okay, so there's no dilution.
Exactly. So the majority or the most of the money will come through debt, and of course we'll still raise some equity in the future to fully fund this project. And we believe that the timeline for this is between now and September, October. By that time, we hope to finalize the entire package.
So let's talk a bit about the future. What are the next steps? Obviously, you want to finance it. You have the feasibility study already in place. So what are the steps, let's say, until Christmas? Beside the financing.
Okay, good question, Johan. The feasibility is done. So the next step for us on the technical side was, of course, to prepare all the documentation to apply for a mining permit. As you know, we have exploration license now. We need to get to mining permit. So as part of that process, we also did environmental assessment study in conjunction with feasibility study. So both these large studies, documents have been already submitted to the government. So the mining permit will be the next step for us. In addition to the mining permit, we're also working through the selection process for EPCM contractor. Basically, this will be the engineering and construction contracting work, and that is a very important part of the entire process, as you can imagine. We have to find a knowledgeable organization that can help us build this. but also an organization that can mobilize, in a reasonable manner into this part of the world.
Okay.
So that's another key part. In addition to it, we've been engaged by a few large industrial groups. These are fertilizer producers who are interested in partnering with us in Ethiopia. So we think that will be another very large and very important milestone for us.
Like an offtake?
It will be some type of strategic partnership.
Okay.
It will include probably an offtake.
Yeah.
It will include some type of an investment. It will also include some type of technical cooperation and support. These are groups that feel not only comfortable with Africa and Ethiopia, they're very bullish on Africa. They think that the real growth, especially in agriculture and fertilizer, will be coming now from Africa. As you know, it's a large continent with huge potential for agricultural development. And we want to strike a long-term strategic partnership with one of these, or potentially two groups, that will help us, again, both financially and technically, to take this project forward. So I would say these milestones, along with financing, will be critical this year.
Okay. Well, sounds very compelling. When will you be in production? And also important for maybe future shareholders, what is management's share in the company? Yes,
of course. We plan to start construction later this year, so later 2013. So if everything is on track with funding and everything else, so of course with mining permits, then it will take us about 2 years to build this plant. And not only the plant, but also the brine fields and the terminal and so forth. So by the end of 2015, early 2016, we think we can start producing our first batch. Obviously, it will take about a year to 18 months to ramp it up to about 1 million tons, but that is the plan at this point. Now, in terms of management, ownership, management, and the board and so forth, we own close to 10% of the company. But we also, as I mentioned, our strategic partners also own between 20 and 23% of it.
Oh, very good. So it's a very healthy share structure.
Yes.
Yeah, and you are sitting in the boat with the rest.
Yes.
That's the same thing.
The incentives, we believe that incentives of both management and, of course, the board and the shareholders have to be aligned. And even when we started the process of finding the right strategic partner, we're looking long term. As you know, these projects are not 2-3 year projects. These are multi-decade projects.
25, 30 years,
Absolutely. So you want to make sure the incentives are aligned, interests are aligned for a long term. And I think that's the only way to actually keep the right people in the management and attract the right people, so that we can not only take it through exploration and development, but also build it and operate it.
Production and maybe dividends in the
Yes, here we go. Here you go. You'll be one of the first to get the dividend check when we're in production.
That. Great. Well, so Farhad, we wish you all the best for that.
Thank you very much.
Please achieve the milestones, and we will report about it in the future, of course, and we will follow your company. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Allana Potash. That was Farhad Abasov. A very interesting, very compelling story, and probably this potash story in the world with the lowest capex so far. And as you heard, he already is engaged with BNP Paribas, with the World Bank subsidiaries, etc. And I think there are less projects in the world who can say that. So it looks like everything comes together until Christmas. So we want to find a nice Christmas parcel below the tree that you have all in place, and that Farhad will start construction. So watch out for the share, inform yourself. Thank you very much for watching us. Thank you very much for following Allana. All the best. Take care. Thanks, and bye-bye from Munich. That was Commodity TV. Jochen Steiger for you.